What's up, folks? It's your boy JRS here, and I'll be honest, guys. What I'm about to tell you is very disappointing, just like the last video about Carson. If you haven't seen that video of mine on the topic, I encourage you to do so. But to summarize, CallMeCarson was exposed to have been inappropriately messaging minors, both 17 years of age, while he was 19, and he was 20 for one of them, just to clarify. He also made up his relationship with Caterino, so, that was pretty cool of him. Okay, so as for the new allegations I'm going to be talking about, I say they are disappointing because, according to the videos and various testimonies from those who interacted with Carson, he was never really the wholesome, funny content creator we thought he was. Because based on the evidence that I found, Carson had a side that was not so nice as the one he presented on stream and in his videos. To showcase this, I'm going to focus on just two content creators Carson has affiliated with, and they are Jay Schlatt and the narrator. So, starting with Jay Schlatt himself, he shared his piece on the CallMeCarson situation in his video titled Carson on one of his channels called The Weekly Schlap. Which, by the way, I'm an OG fan of, back when he was at like 200k or less. You guys should definitely watch his other videos because they're very enjoyable and insightful here, but I digress. Back to the topic at hand, in the video, Schlatt talks about how Carson had been consistently engaging in inappropriate behavior throughout 2019 and possibly even still in 2020. I'll just let Schlatt speak for himself further.
Around late February, early March, Carson told the Lunch Club guys, as well as a bunch of close friends of his at the time, that he had been sexting his fans. He explained that he had exchanged photos with the 17-year-old while he was 19, and that he was done with it. He hadn't done it in months. He was ashamed of what he had done, and all that stuff. Some context for you. Early 2020 was when Carson was at the lowest point in his life. He was extremely depressed. Little did we actually know why, but I knew he had been struggling with imposter syndrome when it came to YouTube and social media and that kind of stuff. And that was something I could relate to in a pretty big way. So I was there for him. Right after Carson had told us the truth, the Kate situation happened. And, regardless of what we felt about the Kate situation, we saw Carson's mental state decline even more. I never condoned what he had done. I remember a call with him and Josh where both of us basically said to him, like, dude, if this behavior continues, we're done. Our close friend had fucked up, but he was also in a very dangerous place, and we felt like we had to be there for him. A few weeks ago, I started having some conversations with some of Carson's closest friends, including his former roommates. And in my discussions with them, I heard some things that suggested that Carson wasn't improving in the areas that he should have been. And he was showing signs of continuing some of his inappropriate behavior. And apparently this was happening while I was spending all this time trying to help him. And while he was saying that he was working on himself and that he was changing and that he hates the person he used to be. These conversations were really the ones that got me second guessing how genuine Carson had been to me and to others throughout this whole thing. I remember me and Connor were in Austin at the time, and over a long-ass dinner, we just kind of put all the pieces together that we often ignored because of how close we were to him and because of how well he had always treated us. There were always stories I'd hear from his roommates about how he treated them and how he generally just acted that I glossed over, and I shouldn't have. Also, seeing the DMs he exchanged with some of the girls that have come forward absolutely fucking disgusted me. Up until yesterday, I thought that all these encounters Carson had were very much, spur-of-the-moment mistakes that he regretted instantly. And that was very much the story that everybody was told. And knowing what we do now, it's simply just not the case. This was something he pursued.
So yeah, as you just heard, Carson did not stop engaging in this inappropriate behavior. I keep saying inappropriate because I'm trying not to get demonetized. There's definitely another word for what he's doing, but I don't want to use it. As a result of his actions, Schlatt and pretty much the entirety of the Lunch Club cut ties with Carson. Alright, so that was the Minecraft businessman himself and his take on the situation, his point of view on what happened. The inventor of Schlattcoin himself. With him out of the way, that brings us to the narrator. narrator. So more recently, one of Carson's original YouTube quote-unquote friends, the narrator, put out his own video titled My Experience with CallMeCarson. Bear in mind that this video was an hour long. I mean, I swear to God, this thing felt longer than The Irishman. So you better thank your boy for watching through the entire thing and providing all the juicy deeds for you. In all seriousness though, the video was really great in that it revealed a lot about what was happening behind the scenes, all the way back in 2018. So I'll summarize the important parts from the video and provide clips when necessary. You're welcome. Firstly, the narrator talks about how, even outside of his videos and live streams, Carson acted like an absolute goofy goober, and this apparently caused issues because it was near impossible to work with him when all he seemingly did was troll people 24/7. In this wonderful image, we see Carson being a massive dickhead, constantly changing the password of a joint account they had together for a now-defunct podcast called the Solitary Confinement Podcast, or the SCP Podcast for short. One of, if not the worst part is that on the podcast and in real life, the narrator would experience mental breakdowns and or manic episodes due to his Asperger's and BPD, aka borderline personality disorder. In response to these episodes, Carson treated them as comedic bits and didn't act accordingly, even though they were supposedly good friends at the time. He should have known the narrator suffered from the aforementioned conditions. Carson even made fun of the narrator during their VidCon 2018 trip when he was suffering from an episode due to not having sufficient money to buy a flight back home from LA. Carson prodded him to the point where he tried to become physically aggressive with Altrive, who was present during this event, and for those of you who don't know, is a fellow YouTuber that affiliates with Carson quite often, but not anymore after, well, you know, the recent news. But yeah, because Carson didn't stop poking fun at the narrator during his manic state, he got angry to the point where he tried to attack Altrive, but ended up punching the wall of the poopy motel they were staying in. Basically, it seems that CallMeCarson is not capable of taking things seriously. I mean, listen, it's fine to joke around and everything, but there are times where you have to act seriously, alright? And apparently, Carson is incapable of doing this. Honestly though, the narrator states in his video that during his manic episodes, Carson would often laugh and say things like this.
I have another manic episode just kind of stressing. Just stressing in general. I don't know exactly what it was, but Carson starts laughing at me. And he's like, what's wrong? You gonna cry? You look mad. And general shit like that. I don't remember the exact words because I've tried to actively suppress this.
So yeah, don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a 10 out of 10 friend to me, bro. The narrator doesn't understand how lucky that they are to have Carson as a friend. Oh my god, what is wrong with him? Why is he talking smack about Carson? Yeah, no, I really hope no one is actually saying that because that'd be sad. In addition to what I just mentioned, Carson also stole the SCP podcast from the narrator, even though the narrator was the guy who came up with the idea for the podcast in the first place. To do this, Carson took control of accounts associated with the podcast and kicked the narrator out of the official Discord server. Just like that, Carson had assumed full control of what the narrator had made. And following this usurpation of the throne, Carson posted a video on the podcast YouTube channel that claimed the podcast was ending because of issues due to the narrator and how terrible he supposedly was.
And I will never forget, he says, and I have in my possession the raw video. But I'm waiting until I get a different file of it. But he says, and I quote, "Narrator is a horrible human being, but go subscribe to him," to his very rapidly growing audience. Because at the time he had between 250K to 500,000. And if you were on the internet in 2018, you know how quickly he fucking grew.
And as you can see, I'm showing you the following screenshots from narrator's video that show, how do I put this? Carson's animosity towards him. So, it seems that for whatever reason, against the wishes of his close internet friends, Carson really disliked the narrator enough to post that video which talked some mad smack about him.
Now, I personally think narrator's a terrible person. Narrator's a terrible person. Terrible person. Terrible person. Terrible person. Terrible person. Terrible person. Now, I personally think narrator's a terrible person, but that should not in any way affect how you see him. Please continue to support him and don't let any petty behind-the-scenes problems affect how you see us.
Frankly, I don't really understand why he did this. There are no good reasons I'm aware of that warranted such behavior. From this, it's pretty clear that Carson is oftentimes impulsive and even a bit manipulative, if I may say. Even after this, though, it seemed to be that he wanted to be on good terms with the narrator. Even though, at the same time, Carson still did not like the narrator. The man was being a bit fake. And now, at this point, you might be wondering why the narrator never publicly complained about Carson's behavior. Well, they say that they didn't do this because they decided to be the bigger person, and I applaud the narrator for that. It's not easy to let something like that go, at least in my case. Because in my humble and most honest opinion, one of the worst feelings in the world is that of being wronged. So I can only imagine how someone with BPD and Asperger's felt about the situation. Big ups to you for that one, narrator. Big ups. Personally, if I was in that situation, I'd probably call Carson a foolish man-child, but I guess I shouldn't get too political, should I? Another issue with speaking out, though, was Carson's influential power. Because he was growing with a massive fanbase and eventually became a big YouTuber, the narrator alone wouldn't have stood a chance against Carson's army of dangerous Redditors. So at the point after the SCP podcast was done for, Carson and the narrator had split. A month after this split, SMP Live happened, followed by the creation of Goop, and then the rebranding to Lunch Club. And as you might guess, Lunch Club was a group of content creators. Kind of like the Misfits, except it doesn't exist anymore. Speaking of which, Lunch Club was actually disbanded mainly because of Carson. Coupled with the bad boy inappropriate minor messaging allegations I talked about in the previous video, as well as him being as impulsive as he was with the SCP podcast, it was bound to happen, and it did back in 2020. RIP Lunch Club. Didn't last very long. Honestly, as the facts and evidence kept piling on from the narrator and other sources, I slowly but surely began to lose sympathy for Carson. At first, I thought the allegations were outright false. Then I believed he simply made a few mistakes in the heat of the moment. As I did more digging, I thought he was just taking advantage of multiple fans because of his popularity, which was still pretty terrible. Now, I realize he's kind of a piece of shit. No, man, at this rate, he's worse than shit. I think I'd rather talk about a literal pile of horse crap than call me Carson. You know, Carson always said he had imposter syndrome. Now I realize he was being truthful, because the man has been an imposter this entire time. Okay. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but actually, I think I'm not being harsh enough. Really, though, I mean it when I say that I am very angered by the actions Carson did in the shadows. Makes me wonder what else he was lying about. But I think this last collection of clips from the narrator's video sums this up perfectly.
In the back of my mind, once all this comes out, for the rest of my life, I'm going to think about how much damage probably could have been fucking avoided. Like, eventually, he probably would have blown up, but it would have taken longer. Potentially, it could have just fizzled out. Maybe it would have been out of the algorithm at that time. But if you just didn't have an editor, I don't know. That's what's been keeping me up for the past 6 months at night, having that weight on my back.
That sucks, man. Yeah, that really sucks. I wish the best of luck to the narrator, whose dreams of being a content creator were all but fizzled out by Carson's antics, as well as a loss of drive for content creation, according to them. But still, Carson played a role in it. Dude, Carson is really like one of those weird band, theater, or crazy Redditor kids. He's humorous at times, but he clearly doesn't know when he's taking it too far. Even though I said all of this, do not go out of your way to hate on Carson. He may be a horrible person, but don't stoop below his level. Just leave him alone, as I'm pretty sure he's going to disappear off of the internet. Currently, he's not responding to any of his social media, so he might have already deleted all of them. He is still a person who suffers from various mental afflictions. You don't have to want to help him, but just don't harass him. To end this video off, I just want to say this. Don't put your favorite content creators on a pedestal, because they could be hiding some sinister secrets. Except for me, of course, I'm a perfect human being. Just enjoy the content they produce, enjoy the personality they display in their videos and or streams, and leave it at that. It's really that simple. As for personal comments I have for people involved, to the narrator, I just want to say thanks for coming out with all of this, and I wish you the best in life. Enjoy it, brother. Now you know you're not alone in this, and we'll be here for you when you need us. To the content creators from the Lunch Club, I'm sorry your friend turned out to be like this. Maybe he's a good person, but he allowed himself to be corrupted and he acted selfishly over these years. And finally, a message to Carson himself, if he's even watching this, which I doubt, but just in case. Listen, man, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you this, but you need help. Though I'm not a professional adult, I'm pretty confident when I say you need to think about what you've done to people and sort out your life in order to become a better person. Maybe if he'd let you, you could go see Dr. K, but I would suggest actual professional help. I believe that everybody is inherently good, or at least has some good in them. So clearly you've not been in the right state of mind for the past few years. I only ask you to reconcile with those you wronged, get off of the internet, because, let's face it, a fair amount of people are going to be somewhat hostile towards you from now on, and I suggest you do some self-reflection as well. I hope for your sake that you are confident in what to do next, and I hope what you decide to do in the future will have a positive effect on those around you, as opposed to negative. Good luck to you in that endeavor, Carson King, if you decide to heed my words. Other than those parting messages, that about covers it. Again, if anything else comes up about this situation, I'll be sure to make another video to keep you all informed. And, yeah, this has been your boy J-Ras. Disappointed to now know that CallMeCarson is not the guy we thought he was. Signing off. Peace!